All right, good evening. We've got an emergency podcast here for very clear and understood reasons. Actually, I'm not even sure why. Not really for good reasons. But we've got a couple things to talk about, a couple trades that went down today worth a little bit of extra time. But I think the real reason that we kind of settled on was with everyone kind of busy next week, might as well squeeze two in this week. And, if we miss next week, we miss next week. So, threw it out there, threw the call out, and we got six takers tonight. We got myself, the Vikings, Bill, Broncos, Chris from the Bengals, Giants, of course, James with the Panthers, and of course RJ. Gentlemen, good evening. And Chris, how's Canada?
Not there yet. I travel Sunday, so I'm just south of the border here in Minnesota, and it feels great right now. Amazing weather.
By the way, that's the first time I've heard south of the border, just south of the border here in Minnesota.
Yep. We have a border too, Mike.
I understand. Too. Not exactly the border most people are talking about when they say south of the border.
Yep.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and start with some of the deals that have gone down since the last pod. I think we were taking an account before we started here that just six went down today, which is truly almost mid-season form here, or mid-draft form or something like that. So truly well done, everybody. But we'll go through a couple of these a little bit more quickly because they don't really matter, and spend some more time on a couple others because I'd say they're pretty big deals. So, 9 total since the pod. The last one was that we didn't cover was Steelers and Chiefs. Milton Williams for Tampa's 24th. Any deep thoughts?
Trey Tucker.
Does make sense.
Right, that's right. Okay. And I forgot that we had missed Trey Tucker on Monday's podcast, a deal going down including him. So we're going to recycle back to that. So Chiefs giving up Trey Tucker for, what is it, the Colts 25 third and the Saints 24 third. So what's probably looking like two early thirds.
Yeah, that one's weird to me. Like, is Trey Tucker worth 2/3 at this point?
Well, isn't he the assumed piece that's going to replace Renfro if he ever actually does get cut?
Yeah, so the assumed piece for wide receiver 3, passing option 4 in that offense. I don't know.
Is it passing option 4?
Maybe 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it even be that far down because Waller's gone?
Yeah, it's pretty much just Devontae and Jacoby, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they have Myers and or
yeah, that's what I said, Jacoby. So
Jakob Jones.
No, the rookie tight end.
Oh yeah, Mike Meyer.
Yep.
They've got some options.
Yeah, and the former Tennessee tight end who went to Cleveland, who I'm blanking on their name.
Oh, Hooper.
Hooper, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so they've got some options there, and again, the pass-happy Jimmy Garoppolo dishing it around. So, again, we say all this, but I actually kind of like Tucker. I think the rumors of Renfro getting cut actually maybe some good things and a clear path to early targets. That said, though, I mean, I feel like he went for a third, and this is the value of a second to me. So I think it's a little bit of an overpay.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, to me, this might just be a player that, like, new owner liked and didn't, he has kind of some excess draft capital, so doesn't mind spending a little bit extra to get a player he's fond of.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it's a great kind of guy to go get that. Hey, I would have drafted this guy if I was here. I'm not, and this isn't like, it's not like, oh my god, he like tripled up what he should have paid for the guy. It's like he paid $1.05 or something like that. It's like, okay, I'll pay 5 cents extra to get the thing I like.
Yep.
All right. So we talked about Milton Williams. Not a lot to say there. The next one's kind of a big deal. Giants, of course, been trying to move his future capital for weeks. Finally found a buyer in Bears. Giants getting back Devin Achane and Jordan Whitehead for Salvin Ahmed, Caleb Fairley, Jesse Bates, and his 25 first and second. So Achane, 114 a couple of months ago. Dalvin Cook didn't sign in Miami, so I don't know what bad news could be coming out of Miami that is lowering the draft stock, but a future second and future first, and small pieces for that. Just good for you. Good for you, Brendan.
Yeah, on the value side, it's great. I'm not a huge a chain fan or whatever, however you say it, but I mean, generally speaking, like based on value alone, it's a win.
This is a very, very big L for Bears.
You broke up there.
I was a the amount
We can't hear you, James.
It's getting worse.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and move you out there for a second, James. Take a couple plays off.
Perfect. I think he was saying it was an L for Bears.
I think he was saying it was a gamble for the Bears. Maybe an L. I
Had
thought
to
it
be
was-
somewhere.
I thought it was good value.
Yeah, value's great. The player himself might not make it through his rookie contract, but
Yeah,
it's still great.
I agree with Bill. The value seems good, but this is a player I've avoided that I don't like. I'm willing to be proven wrong on him, but
All right, James, let's try that again.
Goodbye, James.
Never mind. I think that it may be time to restart the modem. Anyways, hey, that's the great thing about having a podcast just for a week. Stuff like that happens, and it's like, oh god, we got to go back and re-record everything. We can't air this or publish this because, I mean, it's just for our benefit. Anyways, continuing along with trades. Of course, me and Eagles. Brownlee was getting stolen in a Saints claim, and RJ was willing to buy him for a future fifth. So, again, relatively boring.
Oh man,
And-
he's the wide receiver one on the Jets. If you believe any of the preseason hype.
That's
hey now.
I don't know. I heard Garrett Wilson got hurt like a week and a half ago, and I haven't heard any update yet. So,
He has
to
a
my
low-
knowledge, he's just hobbling around practice every day.
Yeah,
His
he has a
leg
low
fell
ankle
off.
sprain. Yeah, he has a low ankle sprain, and he's not practicing because they're letting him rest it out until week 1 when it matters.
Okay, so he lost his job to Jason Brownlee. Got it.
It looks like James wants to come back in for one more try.
all right. So we'll move on to Eagles' next deal here, talking about Damian Harris for the Broncos 24 second. So, again, it's going to look like probably a pretty early second, so that's a lot to pay. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, he sold it for the 201, or he bought him for the 201, and he sold it for the 201, right?
Yep.
Aren't we
He
just got
removed.
very fast?
Was that any better?
That is
Yes.
better.
Much.
Yes.
Okay.
Run.
I'm
Damian
glad
Harris.
to see running back points off the Bucks. I don't care what it costs.
Yeah, it's going to be a deal that you can definitely get increased value out of mid-season at the deadline. 'Cause, I mean, if he plays the goal line back and gets enough touchdowns to where he's worth, paying up for, you could easily get a early to mid 2, if not even a late first, depending on who wants him.
Yeah, he'll definitely get moved at some point this year. It's just a matter of, I thought it was decent value, and I think I can get better value later on in the season.
Yeah, I think you got him for like his floor. I think probably no matter what, you can likely move him for that price during the season, as long as he's healthy.
Mhm.
And if there's ever a Cooks injury, you could easily recoup some nice profit there.
He's also probably a good asset to go get somebody when they hit IR. That was kind of my thought process. I didn't want to go into the season with just like no assets and being a tanking team. I'd rather have some assets to move for slightly better players that are out for the season or something like that.
And this is how you tank in this league, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
He's doing what I did last year. What are you talking
RJ's a
about?
pro.
This model.
Yeah, you stole his model. RJ's tanked like
Bill,
3 times.
Bill implemented 4 models at once, depending on the week.
it truly mattered which week we showed up and actually potted. He was either tearing it down or going for it. Or, oh my God, look at all the stuff I gave for Patrick Mahomes.
Him and Pats were the most bipolar owners we had last year.
Bill was winless coming out of his doubleheaders and went, you know what, I'm going for the playoffs, and then traded for a bunch of stuff. Still lost his next couple of games, and he's like, well, guess I didn't hurt my position.
Yeah, I was like 7-3, and I said, "Fuck it, tear it down."
Oh man.
What a crazy season. Who knows what we're going to do this year?
No one.
God forbid.
I'll probably have the number 1 seed in the NFC.
That's my thinking, too. All right, Hunter Long for Jaden Naylor and Russ Yeast. So after giving up his division mate's weak point for Jaden Naylor, goes ahead and flips that incredibly valuable asset for Hunter Long.
I would have rather picked Naylor. Like just on a dart throw. I mean, Yeast obviously lost his job with the Johnson signing, and Hunter Long is 3rd behind but whoever they are. But I mean, that says all you need to know about the
He's
Rams.
the second best player in the Jalen Ramsey trade. You don't think he's tight end 1?
Not in LA. But no, I mean, I like this is just useless for useless, I guess. But at least Naylor has some possible upside.
Yeah, the good thing about Hunter Long is he's still young, so he has an opportunity to catch on.
Yeah, and he's getting an opportunity on the second team too.
But I'm not. It's just players getting moved.
Definition of a trade: players getting moved. All right.
I'm also not as low on Yeast as everybody else. Like, I don't know if Johnson's just gonna be handed back that starting job.
I think Yeast is a riser.
Oh, that's a 5 out of 10. Better than Bill's.
No, it wasn't. It just had audio with it.
Yeah. Moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Did
think
Mike-
Mike stepped away. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody know what the next trade is?
Yeah, it's Kyle Van Noy from the Browns to Bengals for a 24 fifth.
I mean, is Kyle Van Noy gonna get a job this year?
He's
Yes.
visiting.
So at some point he will. Maybe.
You'd think he would. He played well for the Chargers last year. He played well the year before in Miami. And it sounds like he's a good vet to have. So you think he'd land somewhere.
He's $600K, and he gave up a fifth. You could do worse.
When he got it from a division rival, though, like that's the sweet part. If he does something, he gave a fifth for points against the rival. So
Yeah, it's a very small trade between us. It likely will not matter at all.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, he and I were talking about the same thing, but the Bears' fifth is better than my fifth. So
I mean, it's a reasonable gamble.
yeah.
So the next one is Bengals giving up Amon-Ra St. Brown and Trey Hendrickson to Broncos for Garrett Wilson and a 24 and 25 third.
Who?
oh, that's a small deal. We can keep going.
Yeah. Irrelevant.
Players moving for players. We just talked about this.
I actually like Bengals side of this a little bit better.
It's because you're a well-known Hendrickson hater.
I am.
Bill and I discussed that'd be your response. You'd say short arms is your first.
Well, my preference is actually Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a stud. He's going to be, by the end of the year, we're going to
So-
talk about him in the same breath as Jamar Chase.
So is St. Brown.
Yeah.
Like,
They're both great.
he's a Cooper Cup.
Yeah, but there's a lot more talent there at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, he's actually going to have a little bit of competition for targets now. Not much, but some.
St.
And
Brown.
He's got
Yeah.
Goff throwing to him.
I mean,
He's got-
it's all the same line of last.
Top 10, okay?
I don't know why I'm arguing the other side. I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah,
I think the big takeaway from it was just how good of a job you've done this offseason, Chris, with just about everything but the QB room.
I'm working on that tonight. I've actually got an Excel sheet on the other monitor trying to
Just
figure out
with you
cap.
just getting Quiddy pay, like for what you did, and then getting Draymond Jones for what you did, even if he goes to D tackle next year, to replace the points from Hendricks, and to be able to flip into Garrett Wilson, whether you have them the same tier or different tier, it gives you another year until you have to fifth year them
Yes.
to go with everything else you already have and who you already are paying. So I really thought, just from me, it's more of a win for Bengals, just because altogether it's a better fit and a better build, and I can see what's going on there. Whereas with the Bill, it's okay, now you're paying a year earlier. You get a defensive end. It's just a lot more for going in on this season. I don't think it really made him move as much in my view. Just adding another pass rusher, but who knows? We'll see.
This deal probably wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have given up Cam Thomas the other day.
That's a weird take.
You had Cam Thomas for a couple of corners and a third. Now you're giving up Garrett Wilson.
For an equally valuable wide receiver and a defensive end.
I don't think they're equally valued. I think Wilson's definitely the best player in the deal. I think the value is probably fine. The thirds versus like the cheap DE for this year. We can kind of argue. Maybe there's like a little bit of a discrepancy there, but it's not like egregious. I just think if you're sending the best player in the deal, you might be losing the deal.
Well, the one more year of cost control is also
That is also a really good point.
especially when you have all the bigger pieces that you're trying to pay and fit and do everything with. So
Yeah.
So with the trade discussion, we did go back and forth quite a bit, and I was almost ready to not do any deal just because I do like Amon-Ra that much.
Come on, we know the real holdup. It was Trey Hendrickson.
But
I mean,
I tried to send other people, but I think I think value is close to even, and I think we both benefit from it this year.
that contract is insane on Hendrickson.
yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what his actual real life contract is, but assuming the Bengals are probably not going to keep him too much longer with how many pass
he
rushers
just-
I think
He just got
gonna
an
be around
extension.
longer than Hubbard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hubbard's the guy that's going to be the odd man out there.
Good.
Yeah, because they brought Hendrickson in from New Orleans, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he had that blow up year from New Orleans, and then New Orleans, for whatever reason, didn't keep him and traded and drafted Davenport.
Yeah, they were. That's just terrible mistakes on their part.
Yeah, they should have just tagged him and said, "You're our precious."
And I sold Hendrickson like 6 months too early,
Mm-hmm.
as I always do.
These things will happen sometimes. Hey, shit happens when you party naked.
Mhm.
It sounds like we're talking about the Amon-Ra Wilson deal. I'm
Yep.
very disappointed to have missed the discussion on Kyle Van Noy for a fifth, but these things happen when a fuse blows at home. But again, I love this deal for Bengals. Amon-Ra and Garrett Wilson, I think, have bam, right there. So you're getting Trey Hendrickson, a very cost-controlled stud of a lineman for a year of cost control. Sure, give me that all day.
So which side do you like? Because you said you loved it for Bengals, and then you argued the Bills side of it.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's what you gave. Okay, no, I love Bill's side.
There you
suck.
go.
All right. Then we've got Bears flipping newly found draft capital and stud players for linebackers and worse draft capital. Yeah. Anyone got anything on this one?
Yeah, so just to circle back to the initial where I couldn't even talk, Bears is pulling some big Fs for me, like failure grades. For everything he traded up to get the 114 to draft A-Chain, to then give up on him so quickly and to trade him for far less valuable draft capital, and then to turn around and then use some of that draft capital to get a linebacker who's probably on the outs at the end of this year, and to get a safety when, safeties are literally dime a dozen, and he could have signed as many as he wanted in that free agency period for us and not had to give up any draft picks. I have no idea what he's doing, but every time he turns around, he's depreciating assets, whether it be going from Kirk Cousins to Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke to then getting rid of them again, or the whole A-Chain thing. I just no idea what's going on over there.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, right before the pod started, Eagles giving up on Jack Sanborn for Kadero Hodge and Jared Davis. Excellent. That's kind of the reaction I was looking for.
Yeah.
Davis is
Wow.
going to get dumped as soon as possible, and
You can just put him on IR, can't you?
yeah, but I don't even know if I want him.
$225. It's not worth holding on to.
Yeah, and I got a free Kadero Hodge to not go through the taxi process, and now Bucks gets the option of doing what he wants with Sanborn.
Yeah, so I guess a win-win.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what's going on there. And then I thought I saw something in the chat about something with the Lions projections or something like that. Someone want to talk about that?
Sure.
So he was saying how his projections are based off of the power rankings that we all randomly made, and how the statistics are based off of Mike Clay projections and Tom Kislingberry projections. But they're hard to account for because they don't. The scoring is different, and they do different statistical analysis than we do. Like, for example, Tom Kislingberry doesn't do sack yardage, as an example, but we do. So it's stuff like that. So just differences, but the general idea still plays out. So I think he was saying that if we did an honest breakdown of like power rankings, they would probably be more accurate.
Yeah, fair enough.
Who was
Always
this
appreciate
on
the effort,
power
frankly.
rankings?
What'd you say?
Who was dishonest with their power rankings?
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, if we did like a true like full effort, like because we go from like 7 people do it to like 3 people do it to like 2 people. Like it's not the same people every time. It's different people do it every time, and they all get accounted for equally, which is fine. But I think there just needs to be more dedicated information for that to work.
This all sprung about because Bill claimed that he was the second best team in the league now.
Well, I definitely didn't claim it, but I'm not going to argue against it.
He didn't claim it, but he implied it.
I will never argue against it.
I'll never argue against that. I think my team is the best. I hope. I think that's probably a good thing.
Well, Bill's supposed to have 13.5 wins, right? That's a
That
pretty
is
decent team.
that is the assumption, yes.
Oh, but that was before you gave away Garrett Wilson.
Right.
So now it's probably like 3.5 wins.
Right.
at most.
Mike, I need to tell you, I put myself at number 1 in the post draft power rankings on your column, and I can't change it now. So I'm there.
Wait, why can't you change it? There's no like sharing or editing permissions.
Well, I was trying to delete it and it wasn't letting me. So I'm just gonna leave it. Oh, there we go. It's gone.
Wasn't letting me. Yep.
It's an open
Actually-
source sheet.
Actually, I like it better with it there, so I'm putting it back.
Apparently, my vote is for sale.
Have we actually started a new one? Or
Not
like,
yet. I
or
can.
probably- Okay.
Yeah,
Do we
that'll-
want another? Do we have some homework? Or...
I didn't know if we had like a camp pipe one yet or not. I just remember the last one we did.
I think
Yeah,
we
we'll
could-
do one
we could-
before the season kicks off, right, Mike?
yeah,
we could
that,
do a preseason power ranking tab if
Sure.
we wanted.
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever.
that was going to be the next coming week's podcasts.
All right, so we're putting Bill at what? Better luck next year. All right, moving him down a few spots.
Line it all up.
That's what I mean by honest.
Yeah.
So I know this guy. I think he got mentioned. I don't know what chat, but somebody said that they wanted to discuss the worst contracts in the league.
Oh
Yeah.
yes. Let's go through and kind of see.
Ferris Campbell, $30 million a year, 3 years.
Um,
Done. Next.
Well, we have a winner, but I'm sure we can find other bad ones.
I thought
Yeah,
it
I
would be
think this is more
valuable
of a
for
race
the
for
new
second
owners to like do like here's like the 5 or 10 like worst contracts and 5 or 10 like best contracts as a way of just kind of showing you it's like some value in the conversations around like what the positions and stuff and how
Oh,
we're getting
yeah.
to that. That was my thinking.
Okay.
I got to
So-
sign off. Thank you all. We'll see you
All right.
around.
See you, Chris.
Came on for the trade roster baiting and
So
Here's
best
some good stuff.
contracts in the league. I think those kind of stand out themselves. But Gino, Eckler,
Yeah, I said Hurts, but yeah.
Hurts, Kittle.
Hendrickson, Kittle.
Max
Hendrickson,
Crosby.
Max. Isn't he like 4 million?
Yeah, but he's still a top 10 edge player.
I mean, I don't think he's like worse than like the top 10 best contract.
Oh,
in the
you're
league.
you're talking like a sub $1 million level like studs.
Not necessarily, but ones that just stand out as like egregiously cheap.
I think that's pretty egregious when you consider that's like 15 million or 14 million less than like a Miles and everybody
No.
else. is
Oh yeah,
there.
I think Crosby's in that conversation for sure.
For a price controlled one, yes, but I think you can find comparable like rookies at like price and results.
Jacoby Myers is pretty solid.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're comparing it to rookies, I mean, I agree that would
He's been all the time.
move that down.
There's not a lot of rookies that are producing like that, though.
Yeah.
Like, when we go to edge, maybe you have, that's really just who's drafted well in the last 4 years.
Right. Well, I mean, I think a lot of it does have to do with price, with like being able to control the price for an extended period of time.
Yeah,
Although
I mean,
we're starting to see fewer and fewer of those guys now with all the changes.
Right.
Like, rookie deals would have to be what, like Justin, Chase, Garrett Wilson, and Chris Olave, and that's probably about it.
Well, I mean,
All
we
the
can-
running backs.
we can agree that somebody like a Tony Pollard that is price controlled at under $7 million, like that's just, other than Eckler, that's just insane compared to the rest of the top scoring running backs. I guess Aaron Jones falls into that category, but he's starting to age out, in my opinion.
If he holds his job, Pacheco's contract is legit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be a committee though. He's not like he's a bell cow.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know. Like that's the whole thing is that he's hurt, so there's
We
no
do
way
know.
to do what they're
We
going
have
to do.
the entirety of Andy Reid's career.
But then you have the issue with Pacheco of like the second you extend him, he's going to be expensive.
He's not going to ever get extended, though. I mean, it's
No.
it's an interesting thing. Like, this is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to run him down for 4 years, and then they're going to let him walk. and then they're going to at some point hit on another running back. And because he's playing next to Patrick Mahomes, it doesn't matter because he's going to be good.
Which means that in this league, he's not going to get extended either. Because eventually that will catch up. Like Bijan, for example, if he gets the Derrick Henry treatment and he just gets run to the ground, by the time he hits his 5th-year option, there's no reason to extend past that because he's going to be out of the league.
It just depends on how many years of production you get. Like if he gets you 2 or 3 years of production, and you get to that point, you could easily find someone who's wanting to get that player, and when they get him, they'll probably extend them, whether it be wise or not.
So like it's interesting. It's like in this league, I was thinking about this a couple weeks ago. Like there's a general idea in Dynasty that running back should be the most fluid position that you have. You should just cycle them out every 2 years, go younger, whatever you got to do, right? I wonder if that kind of concept is going to hit this league as well, where it's like, okay, cool. 2 years into a guy like Bijan or anybody, pick one, into the rookie deal, they're going to lose a bunch of value next year because they're going to be a year closer to the 5th year. Cycle out, get a rookie pick, draft the replacement.
So when you're looking at most dynasty leagues, or like most fantasy leagues, you're looking at it from a perspective of like a 12 team,
right?
And there's plenty of productive players to go around. What you're really trying to what you're trying to acquire is the majority of players that are having a career year at the same time. Whereas with us, it's a little bit more like dispersed. You don't need the player scoring the peak, like the most. You just need players scoring around that, and you can build a quality team with 27 and 28-year-old running backs as long as they are giving you 100 plus points a season. Like you're not looking for the guy that's going to necessarily give you 200 points a season.
Yeah, the bigger thing when it comes to running backs to me in this league is if you kind of draft one like outside of the first round now, it kind of seems like the best thing to do is hold them until that last year, and then if you're not competing or whatnot, just trade them and let someone else trade extend them. And if you take someone in the first, you're hoping that you might potentially get that 5th year out of them. Then you're going to probably tag them and then hope you get that first rounder back out of them. And then that's probably it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we've seen a running back get bought through a tag for a first rounder yet, have we?
We haven't let
Jacobs.
We've always someone who buys.
Jacobs was just traded for Watson.
That's true. I don't know, in kind of the real life side of this for a second, I'm kind of interested to see what happens to the running back position here. Because, again, for so many players, that was like their ticket and their reason they made it to school, their reason they got to the pros, stuff like that. Again, it's a running back position, but if it's being devalued except for a certain archetype, I almost wonder if like all of a sudden a set of like Mike Boone's appear, where it's like a 3rd round player who was a day 3 pick who's good enough to play a role for you for cheap. Like he starts sticking around for like 8 to 10 year careers because he's like that perfect role player at the running back position, and all the high end talent kind of abandons it. It's going to be so fun to see what happens to the game.
Yeah, I think a lot of carries can get supplemented through a lot of different players on the team, and what you'll see is like the running back position will emphasize being able to play out of the slot and blocking schemes a lot more.
Yeah. You'll see more Debos. You'll see more. It sounds like LaVisca is going to do it this year. I had a couple other names. I'm just blanking now.
I was going to say that I think that it's going to turn into like a Christian McCaffrey type of thing, where if you cannot do both at a high level, you're not going to play in the league.
Yeah. they'll just get three of their lower end running backs on or wide receivers on the roster to take a handful of carries every week.
Yeah.
And
They'll become offensive weapons instead of running backs.
right. You'll see a team only roster 2 running backs and then like 8 wide receivers, and then the lower end of that rosters. Yeah.
But it's also interesting that you say it because when it got squished pretty quickly with Derrick Henry. But when Henry went to Alabama, there was talk about him transferring over to the linebacker. But the one that actually heavily stuck around for a while was Bo Scarborough. There was a lot of conversation about Bo Scarborough swapping over to linebacker. And Saban actually told him that he thought he would have a better chance at making the pros if he swapped over to linebacker. And he never did. Then it ended up going undrafted, signs with Dallas, and now he's a 2-time USFL champion with the Birmingham Stallions. That's what it is. Jeez.
God, like him and Kalen Ballage. It's like 2 guys who are absolutely supposed to just kill in the league. It's like, oh my God, 5 or 6 touchdown games. This guy's going to be amazing in the league, and then makes it and literally just shits their pants. Like, God, annoying.
Yeah.
Hey, dynasty lessons learned. I think everyone's got those scars they've taken on guys like that or other Debbie players that they fall in love with and like, nope, I know better. Oops.
Yeah. There's also just some landing spots that are death. Like, I think about it quite often. What if Tavon Austin went to a actual good offensive-minded coach, or if he just played in the modern NFL? Because, Jeff Fisher with the Rams in St. Louis was not the spot for him to go.
Nope.
And, yeah.
I love how that happened in the first place. Like, hey, this is not the right offense for this player. So why is he there in the first place? I missed the
Steve Electric, popular.
They needed a kick returner.
Well, the whole thing with GMs is always really difficult. And that's one of the things where it's like when you watch the draft, you have to evaluate what's actually going on behind the scenes. Because as much as you want your team to build for, the ability to win a championship, to do this, that, and the other, these guys are getting paid now to win now. They make the moves that they think give them the best chance to win now or be good enough in the owner's eyes, like fun enough to watch this, that, or the other for them to keep their jobs because they want to make their money. Like, there are guys who make picks that are just questionable, and there's things that happen that, there's plenty of draft picks where there's a little bit more behind it than the player's actual talent.
Yep. All right. Any other topics of interest for folks?
No, not particularly.
All right. Time to talk trades. Have fun, everybody.